sun. But to let tramps like us, baby, we were born to run.
Seems like new territory for you. What's it like watching a movie about the most painful moments of your life?
Well, they tend to be the most interesting moments of your life at the end of the day, you know, when you're making your way through some sort of crucible, hopefully to come out the other side with some knowledge gained, some greater sense of self, and a story to tell. So that's the story we're telling.
Directed by Scott Cooper, Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere tells the deeply personal story of the rock legend's struggles with depression while making his 1982 album, Nebraska.
Sir, I guess it's just a meanness in this world.
You've said in the past the album Nebraska is one that you hope lives on, one you hope you'll be remembered for. Do you feel that way about the movie?
Yeah, the film, Scott did an incredible job of transposing the fundamental nature of the album into film. You know, it's, for a rock and roll movie, it's a relatively quiet picture. It's not a biopic. It's a character-driven drama with music, you know. And he understood the deep psychological underpinnings of the story itself, and he brought them to the fore. Nebraska, very psychological record. So he really blended the two in a way that they're both cut from the same thread.
He actually said it's about a neglected soul repairing himself through music. Is that how you see it?
Well, music was the first way that I really medicated my anxieties and my depression, you know. It was the initial thing I found that brought forth an inner self that felt like it had some agency in the world, you know. So the film does feature music as a healing process, you know. I mean, really, that's what are we doing all the time? We're all working out our issues at home, at work, everywhere, on a daily basis.
But I wonder what it must have felt like, because one of the things that comes through in the film is that you hit that point where you realize it's not enough. You can't heal yourself only through the music.
I really knew a lot what to do with those 3 hours on stage. It was the other 21 that were killing me. You know?
It's hard coming home.
Quiet can get a little loud.
So that's the majority of your life. So you better figure out what you're going to do with those, or you will have no life. You know, you will have no functional life. No one can live inside their work. Your work can live inside of you, but you cannot live inside of your work, you know?
Coming off the road has never been easy for you. Yeah. You just need to give it some time. It'll pass.
Yeah.
So figuring out those other 21 hours, what you see in the film is the very beginning of me sorting through that process.
Did you know then, at those darkest moments, that you were going to emerge whole?
No. In the middle of it, there's a lot of confusion, chaos, unsureness. You know, I think that I was very surprised when I had my initial, whatever you'd like to call it, breakdown, anxiety attacks. I had, up to that point, been quite successful in using my musical meds and keeping myself relatively steady. So it was very shocking to run into it where suddenly those things stopped working. Dead. Hit a wall. Nowhere else to go. except through that wall, you know. So the film shows that the beginnings of that process of me running into that wall and trying to figure out how am I going to make myself. You can't get around it, you can't get over it, you can't get under it, you got to get through it, you know.
You've been pretty open talking about your mental health challenges in the past, but this is now going to go to a much, much bigger audience. What do you hope people get out of it?
I don't have a problem with that, you know. I saw a lot of symptoms of deep mental illness as a child on our little 5 houses, on our little blocks with the Catholic Church and the priests and nuns in the center. That was my life. I didn't know what to make of it. All I knew it was what these were the people I loved. And, you know, so it was, as a child, you simply accept it, but later on it becomes challenging.
And for me at least, watching the movie, the end has a universal message of hope, that no matter the traumas you've lived through with your family, reconciliation is possible, love can survive.
It's possible. I mean, look, there are traumas that people experience that are irredeemable, you know, where relationships are truly and deeply ruined and cannot be reconciled. I was fortunate that that was not my case, you know. There's a lovely scene in the film at the very end where I'm on my father's lap, and he simply admits to me that he wasn't very good to me as a child. And that meant a great, great, great deal to me. It was his greatest gift to me, a simple acknowledgement of the truth. That was all I ever needed from him, and I was blessed to get it.
And you gave him a blessing back. One of the most moving lines in the film for me, you did your best.
Yeah. Well, you know, that was, he did. He did. He was very ill. And he did what he could do, you know, and as I got older and became a man myself, I recognize that, you know.
Born down in a dead man's town, the first kicker took us when I hit the ground. End up like a dog that's been beat so much till you spend half your life just to cover it up. Born in the USA.
The Bears' Jeremy Allen White stars as Springsteen alongside Succession's Jeremy Strong as Bruce's longtime friend and manager, John Landau.
Once you have your first top 10, you know, they want 3 for the next. You gotta feed the machine.
That's not us, John. We've never been about singles, but the album. Write the whole story.
What made you want to tell this story in this way?
A couple of things. Nebraska, I think, is one of the best albums of the last 50 years. And for me, it well predated this movie. It's a record that I often turn to when I'm writing screenplays. It's a record when I'm feeling my lowest that I turn to because I know what Bruce was going through as he was expressing himself to write this record. And I know the traps and the cliches of telling a cradle to the present day narrative of a biopic. And I wanted to focus on something that was incredibly intimate and specific in Bruce's life, a record that had a lot of personal resonance for me, but also one that can show people that when you're struggling, the right help is there to help you through your darkest days. And it seemed to me that if I could tell a story about a man who could have very easily, coming off the River Tour, chased the roar of arenas, #1 hits, but instead chose silence and a 4-track recorder in his bedroom and the courage to look inward, to make that choice. And that choice gave us Nebraska, which is a work of raw truth and vulnerability that haunted me since the first time I heard it. So that's why I decided to make this film.
Jeremy, I'm not an actor, I'm not a singer, so I can only imagine what it's like to get the phone call that says, how'd you like to play Bruce Springsteen?
Yeah, heavy call. Heavy call, yeah. We spoke about Nebraska a little bit.
And at first, before reading the script, there's such big shoes to fill, and I wasn't sure. I don't play guitar, I don't sing. I said, are you sure you don't want to find a guy that can kind of do some of these things, you know?
Born in the USA, I was born in the USA, I was born in the USA.
But he thought I was the man, and I read the script, and I saw how intimate this particular story was, how focused it was on this period in Bruce's life, how focused it was on the creation of this album of Nebraska, and I thought I had to try.
So what was your first meeting like after you decided to take the role? What was your first meeting with Bruce like?
We met for the first time in London. It was, I think, your last show
might have
of
been
that leg,
yeah,
right?
Wembley Stadium.
At Wembley.
Yeah.
It was a very big show. I was invited to come to sound check, and after sound check, Bruce spotted me out in the pit, and he called me up, and our first meeting was center stage right there at Wembley. That was us. And then we had a nice talk. We went back to your dressing room, and Bruce was so generous with his time. I was with some friends, and we were talking about the movie and the period of the movie, and I got to ask Bruce some questions, and he was very honest right away. And then, I looked at my watch and I said, I think you got to go on in 10, 15 minutes. Don't you want us to get out of here? And he said, you got a couple more minutes. And he was just really generous. Yeah, the whole way through.
Bruce, I read that Patty, when she first saw Jeremy on set, said that's Bruce at 32.
Yeah. Well, there was something about the way Jeremy carried himself, and that immediately when Scott brought the idea of doing a movie to me, he was the first guy that I thought of. There was just something, there was a common physicality in the way we moved, I thought.
Songwriting's a funny thing. It's about searching for something. Something that's gonna give your life a little bit of meaning.
I'd seen The Bear, and I knew that Jeremy was capable of really delving into the inner psychology of his characters, and I knew that was going to be the essential element for the picture, So he was the first guy I thought of, and I never had a thought for anybody else, So I was really excited. I told Scott, he's interested in it? Scott says, yeah, he's interested in it.
Yeah, I'm interested.
I said, he's going to do it? Yes. So I was really excited about it.
Scott, you described that inner quality as a combination of what? Humility and swagger.
So often you hear, don't meet your heroes for fear that they'll disappoint you. And Bruce has far exceeded my expectations because he has so much humility and so much grace. And I've found that so does Jeremy. But what they share, that they don't teach at Juilliard, is swagger. And you either have that or you don't. And they have it in a way that's incredibly confident, that just comes from something that you can't teach. And I knew that Jeremy had the intensity. I knew he could easily play the vulnerability. He's in terms of artistic bravery, not afraid to bare his soul, as Bruce does in his writing.
I always tell Scott when he says I have humility and swagger, he's half right.
Which half?
Only half right there, my friend.
You also said that Jeremy's better looking than you, and Jeremy's is a lot better looking than John Landau.
These are just the facts of life.
Trying to find something real in all the noise. You always do.
I'm listening to Scott and Jeremy talk about Nebraska, something that John wrote back in the early 70s, because I've become a kind of student of John Landau's. He said that for him, the criterion for art in rock is the capacity of the musician to create a personal, almost private universe and to express it fully. And I can't think of an album that exemplifies that more than Nebraska. So it's just been incredible to get to be part of telling this story. And it's also Bruce and John, they've always been, and we talk about this in the movie, trying to find something real. and I think this album finds what's real in a world that's increasingly synthetic and artificial.
Don't need to be perfect. I want it to feel like I'm in the room by myself.
Yeah. One of the most real things, at least for me watching it, was this portrait of a friendship between two men that you don't often see in film.
Oh, it's a love story.
No.
It's the
Yeah.
central love story of the film.
Yeah, that was one of the things in the script that excited me the most, is about seeing this sort of a brotherhood and loyalty and love between two men that it's normally reserved for like a war film or something like that. You don't see men in this environment sort of leaning on each other in this way and protecting each other in this way.
The thing that was really sort of mind-blowing to me that I love about this aspect of the film is the way they captured the way Bruce and I interact and the ease and naturalness.
When you bond over music, you bond over values, ideals, identity. All of those things come with shared artistic choices and shared artistic tastes. And John and I began simply as two guys who liked music and were playing each other records and talking about them, you know. But the deep personalness of meeting someone, and I've been blessed in my life that I've met two people like this. I've met Mr. Landau and my buddy little Steven Van Zandt. I've had two people who I've had these incredible relationships with, unbelievably intimate, based around the music that we've loved and the identities, ideals, and values that where that music has led us.
To me, so much of this movie is about trust. The trust between you two, the trust you have in your audience, the trust you ended up having with your family. How did you develop that trust?
Well, you know, what came to mind when you brought up the word trust was the way that we made this film with Scott, because we trusted him to tell the story. And as everybody's saying, it's a very intimate and incredibly personal story. As Bruce said to me after we watched the director's cut, he said, well, you know, we don't, most of what we've done in the last 50 years has originated internally. It comes from a project that Bruce initiates. This is the rare thing that came from the outside. And so it was an act of trust making the film that was very unusual.
Can't have been easy to be sitting there playing Bruce Springsteen with Bruce Springsteen.
I gotta say, I felt a little bad about that. I still do, that I was on set so much.
No. I think the job, you know, it's like the job of an actor, you know, you have to muster up a certain amount of, you know, delusion. I think I was nervous that Bruce was there, or in my deepest insecurity, that Bruce was there to pick apart what I was doing or pick apart what Scott was doing. But then very, very quickly I learned that he was there to be a guide, to be a support, and ultimately give me some permission. And obviously, you know, give Scott permission, which I think Scott might have just understood a little bit sooner than I did, you know.
As an actor, so much of your work has to be done before you walk onto that set. And your primary relationship when you do that is to be connected to what's at stake for the character and the circumstances that they're in. For me, at least, the presence of these guys on set was, if anything, knowing how much they give to what they do. It just was this extra sauce to give 1,000% every day.
You talk about them on set. I want to talk a little bit more about your preparation before you get on set. I don't know how much time you had to prepare. What do you do?
It's a kind of relentless process of observation and study, internalizing your subject in a way. So he was my mark. He thought we were just hanging out and talking.
let me jump in here. So Jeremy comes to see us, and we're doing a show in Denmark. And at the end of the show, I'm walking Jeremy to his car. And I come back, and our road manager is standing around, and he just says, I was watching you guys walk to the car. You know something? He walks exactly like you. and I just realized he was already, he was just copping me right there, you know, right from the beginning.
The other word that, you know, that comes to me, apart from trust, in addition to trust, is devotion. Because it's just something, you know, spending time, it's hard to put into words sometimes what you glean from people. But I think that's the thing that I've taken away from both of these men more than anything. And it's that devotion to something bigger than themselves, and that devotion, I think, is something that we share.
No singles, no tour, no press.
No, really?
No joke. He's not even putting his face on the album cover.
What?
Nothing.
You're being serious.
I love that scene.
That is a classic scene, but it also it captures, you talk about devotion, it captures John Landau's devotion to Bruce Springsteen, because he was doing what Bruce wanted there.
I'm not asking for your understanding, and I'm not here to explain Bruce's thinking or justify his artistic choices. I am here to make sure the album is released precisely the way he wants. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay? Whether or not you believe in this particular album, in this office, my office, we believe in Bruce Springsteen.
Everybody, including myself, was expecting sort of the next evolution of Bruce and the E Street Band and the big rock album. And it was just starting to emerge slowly that, hey, that isn't the path that we're on. And I had to readjust.
What distinguished John was when he came in, he says, look, and why the no tour, no press,
No singles.
you know, no joke line resonates so deeply is because John came in and said, look, I'm here to help you do what you want to do. You know, that's my purpose.
In this office, we're in the Bruce Springsteen business.
That's right. And that scene shows John at his best, and that's a promise that he has kept with me for the 50 years that we've been together.
Let's burn this place down, Johnny. You know, I had, I think, the most fun right here. You know, we had a group of background actors that were so excited to be here that day. And I would be performing up there, and they would be screaming so loud, and I could really find a moment where I tricked myself, and I felt like they were screaming for me. And then our first AD would yell, cut, and everybody went silent, and I realized I'm just an actor. I am no Bruce Springsteen.